Morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 8th. I hope everyone's doing well. And this is like the fourth or fifth time I've tried filming this already this morning. So let's see. Maybe this will be the one. Um, Today I'm going to read you. I've kind of like set up a chain of poems over the last couple of days. So 2 days ago, I read David Wojan's Scrabble with Matthews. I need to, early on in the video, apologize again to both of the great Matthewses. Paul Matthews was my poetry professor in college, whom I took 2 courses with him. William Matthews wrote yesterday's poem, not Paul Matthews, even though I had it written down right in front of me, even though I knew in my head and in my heart, I don't know what happened. This strangeness of everything, maybe. I don't know. So my many apologies to both of the Matthewses for confusing your names yesterday. So yesterday was a poem about Homer's Seeing Eye Dog by William, not Paul Matthews. And today I'm going to read you a selection from the Odyssey. I spoke a little bit yesterday about the importance of like building some social capital, and you know, I don't necessarily believe that you have to read every single line of the Odyssey, but you know, it's where a lot of stories and mythologies come from. I'm interested in mythology. I've always been interested in mythology, not just Greek mythology, but mythology in general, from all different cultures, and why stories are told the way that they're told. And you know, if you've been in my class, you know I'm always asking, like, what does this remind you of? Where have we seen this before? I remember reading the Fagles translation of the Odyssey, which I've also been fortunate enough to teach on a handful of occasions for a couple of different courses. I remember reading that in high school myself, in a humanities course as a senior. It's one of the best courses I've ever taken. Everything we read in that course like really stuck with me. So I want to read you. I'm going to read you the first, I think, 20 or 30 lines from a version of the Odyssey, and it's Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey, which he published in 2018. So it's a new version of a very old story, perhaps one of the oldest stories. And there's something really wonderful about this. I love the Fagles translation. I love this version too. I love that it's done by a female translator. What many people, I think it's easy for us to forget. That when somebody translates something, and I always think about this, Seamus Heaney is a famous translator as well. You have multiple versions of any story, any text, and it's a little different. The translations are just that. They are translations. It's not just like I'm going to retell this story. Someone is taking and reading an old language, a different language that they've studied very hard, and bringing as faithful a translation as they can, while also bringing a little style too. And there's just something really wonderful, perspective-wise and translation-wise, about this one. I repicked this up recently, and I've been kind of flipping through, and I took great joy in flipping through the story that I know really well, and how Emily Wilson handled translating it, and which she did beautifully. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to read you the very beginning of her version of the Odyssey. It's split up into 24 books, of course. The first book in her version is called The Boy and the Goddess. So this is book 1, the first, we'll do the first 30 lines. Book 1 in Emily Wilson's translation of Homer's The Odyssey. The Boy and the Goddess. Tell me about a complicated man. Muse, tell me how he wandered and was lost when he had wrecked the holy town of Troy, and where he went and who he met. The pain he suffered in the storms at sea, and how he worked to save his life and bring his men back home. He failed to keep them safe. Poor fools, They ate the sun god's cattle, and the god kept them from home. Now, goddess, child of Zeus, tell the old story for our modern times. Find the beginning. All the other Greeks who had survived the brutal sack of Troy sailed safely home to their own wives, except this man alone. Calypso, a great goddess, had trapped him in her cave. She wanted him to be her husband. When the year rolled round in which the gods decreed he should go home to Ithaca, his troubles still went on. The man was friendless. All the gods took pity, except Poseidon's anger never ended until Odysseus was back at home. But now the distant Ethiopians, who lived between the sunset and the dawn, were worshipping the sea god with a feast, 100 cattle and 100 rams. There sat the god, delighting in his banquet. The other gods were gathered on Olympus, in Father Zeus's palace. He was thinking of fine, well-born Aegisthus, who was killed by Agamemnon's famous son, Orestes. It goes on, of course, for thousands more lines. But there's just something really beautiful and musical and contemporary and wonderful about this translation, and I love it. I love it. I love the fact that there are different versions. I love the music in here. I love doing something and reading something that I know exactly what's coming, but like hearing it in a different way. I think that's one of the most wonderful things. The argument is that there's only a handful of stories. We just keep telling them over and over in slightly different ways. And I like that this is a story with great detail that we know and that we've studied. And I just really, really enjoy this. So if you liked how that sounded, or if that was like a fresh take on things, please make sure that you check out Emily Wilson's translation of Homer's The Odyssey. All right, folks, take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves. Wash your hands. Let's keep this social distancing going for as long as we need to. I know it's a bummer. I know it's hard, but we can, and we absolutely will make it through this.